Hey everybody, it's Daniel here from Mobile Syrup, and we are here in Toronto with the final shipping hardware of the Sony Xperia ZL coming on April 2nd to a bunch of carriers in Canada. Now, I just wanted to take a look at the device because while we did show you the hardware in January at CES, we haven't actually had a time to sit with it in person and gonna go through it a little bit slower without all the background noise. And while it may be disappointing that Canada isn't seeing the Xperia Z, this is a really nice compact device, and we'll show you a comparison with the HTC One in just a minute. But what we have here is a 5-inch 1080p screen. It's gorgeous, although you do see that with the viewing angles on horizontal or vertical, it does wash out a little bit, but front on and a little bit to either side, it's really sharp and vivid. It's one of the nicest screens that I've seen. This has the Sony Mobile Bravia 2 engine, and it's really nice. Lots of beautiful colors. Now this is running a fairly stock version of Android 4.1.2, and although this is not shipping software, it should be very close. And you can see here 4.1.2, and this will support LTE as well. Now the Samsung Galaxy S4 and HTC One were just announced with the Snapdragon 600 system on a chip, which has an Adreno 320 processor. Now, this is a Snapdragon S4 Pro, which is the same quad-core chip as in the Nexus 4 and LG Optimus G, and it's not that much slower than the 600, but the GPU is identical, so you'll get great gaming performance on this device, and everything should be really smooth. Now let's go through some of the stock features, because one thing that Sony's really pushing is its integration with many of its other brands. So we can see here on the bottom you have Walkman, you have Album, you have Movies, you have Sony Select. Going into Walkman, you see this familiar kind of lots of picture-focused Sony interface. Unfortunately, there's no music installed in here. Album, you can see that everything looks really sharp, and it engages that mobile Bravia engine as well. The screen is nice and responsive as well. One thing to note is that this does come with on-screen navigation buttons like the Nexus 4, and that's really nice, because what it does is it allows the buttons to disappear when they're not in use and show that entire 5-inch screen. Also to note, the multitasking menu has changed a little bit from stock Android. It's gotten, I think I really prefer this. It shows smaller thumbnails in a vertical direction that you can just kind of swipe horizontally to get rid of that app. But it also comes with something called small apps, which are pre-installed kind of shortcut or like mini apps that you can activate. This is a calendar, for example, that you can move around and kind of keep on the screen. It's kind of like Samsung's multi-window app feature, but it's a little bit easier to use. So what you do is, you just, if you want a timer, for example, you set it to the bottom left of the screen, and you start, let's do it for 1 minute, and then you just go on your way. So you can do other stuff. It's translucent, so you can see through it if you want. It's an interesting feature. I'm not sure that I'd use it too much, but you can also download new apps. So there's installed small apps, but you can also go into the Play Store. Oh, this doesn't have a Play Store account, but you can go into the Play Store and you can download third-party applications. Now you also have Music Unlimited and Video Unlimited, which are Sony's proprietary portals for that content, and that content has improved tremendously. Music Unlimited has gone through a lot of iterations. It works really well on Android. It also supports notification control, so you can actually forward and you can skip and pause songs right from the notification bar. You have these shortcuts up on top here, and lets you go into the settings really quickly. You also have a lot of the features of Android 4.1, which are, including Google Now, so you can swipe up from the home button and you can get Google Now really quickly. That's a really nice feature. Unfortunately, this doesn't run 4.2, so you don't have lock screen widgets, but that will come in time. And you can see that Sony's made some really interesting looking widgets here, but everything else seems fairly stock. Even Chrome comes installed here, pre-installed, and apps like the messaging app really just look like nicely written and developed simple apps, and that's all we can ask for from an Android skin these days. The other thing that you'll keep in mind is that Sony does pre-install Mcafee Security on here, which is something that I'd really like to see removed, but you can actually uninstall it if you want. You also have the PlayStation Mobile portal here, which is not available in the Play Store, but you can download it as a side-loaded APK, and you can play games from the Sony Mobile Store, which you can also play on your Vita. So there are games that if you download one on your Vita, you can play it right on the phone as well. And there's a bunch of other stuff, including Sony Select, which are a curated set of apps. You can have Update Center. There's Track ID, which is sort of like a Shazam. You have your Wise Pilot, which is a GPS application, and you have Xperia Link, where you can actually use your Sony phone to connect to your PC or tablet using the internet connection. So that's really nice as well. On the hardware side, you can see that this is a very compact device. On the left side, you have your micro USB and micro HDMI combination port, and it's not covered, so this is not IP57 like the Xperia Z, but it's got many of the same features. You have your volume rocker on the right. You have your very familiar now signature Xperia power button. Feels great. It's chiseled aluminum. It's really nice. You also have an advantage over the Xperia Z in a hardware camera button, and you can just hold down on the screen on that button and it'll jump right into the 13 megapixel camera. You can see this new camera interface. It uses something called Superior Auto to set the different modes. So if it thinks that you're doing a macro shot, it'll turn it right onto macro. If we pan out here, you can see it'll probably change to a different mode as well. So you have soft snap, so it's nice lighting, and it'll kind of soften it a little bit, change the white balance. So that's something that's really interesting. It also takes photos really quickly, much faster than this Xperia T. And on the back here, we have this little flap for the micro SD card and micro SIM slot. And you have your 13 megapixel camera, you have your mono speaker as well. And this backing is really nice to hold in the hand. So let's actually do a quick comparison here. I'm gonna go to one of my favorite websites to show off photos. I'm gonna go to 500px.com, and over here I have my HTC One, and I'm also going to go to 500 pixels. Now you won't be able to tell very much from this because obviously the camera is limited by what it can show you, but you know, if I go into photos on both of this, let's pull up the same photo on both. Let's pull up this one here. You can see just how vivid that red is on the Xperia ZL. You can see that you know, the highlights, the yellow highlights, are much more pronounced on the ZL. It actually does look a little bit better on the ZL as well. You can see if we scroll over to the yellow portions, the shadows do look a little bit nicer on the ZL as well. So this Super LCD screen on the HTC One, you know, it's probably better for some things, but the ZL just seems to be a little bit more balanced in terms of colors. In terms of the hardware, you can see that the HTC One is a little bit taller, and if we go over here, you can see that it's also a little bit thicker, but very minimal. And the design of the ZL is not as remarkable as the One. Obviously, you don't have those front-facing speakers, but you do also get rid of these really frustrating capacitive buttons below the screen, and you don't have that very pronounced front-facing camera on the top. It's actually hidden away here on the bottom. So there are some advantages to the form factor of the Xperia ZL. You don't have the hardware button on the HTC One either. So, you know, I do have a lot of hope for the ZL as a really nice premium device, as long as Sony can market it correctly and keep up with updates, because it took the Xperia T quite a long time to come out with Jelly Beans. So let's hope that this doesn't stay a trend. And let's look out for this on April 2nd. We'll bring you a full review in the coming weeks. So this has been Daniel for Mobile Syrup. Thanks so much for watching.